Hands shoved against hot asphalt, face down, a decorated detective becomes just another black man. Samuel lies motionless as Officer Brennan ransacks his car, tossing case files and personal items onto the street with calculated indifference. The afternoon sun beats down mercilessly on Samuel's back. "Hands where I can see them. You match the description of a robbery suspect," Brennan barks, knee pressing harder into Samuel's spine. Samuel's police badge tumbles from his jacket pocket. Brennan's boot swiftly kicks it away. "That looks fake. Probably bought it online," he sneers. Smartphones emerge from the growing crowd of onlookers, recording as a 15-year veteran detective with multiple commendations lies handcuffed on the ground like a common criminal. What Officer Brennan doesn't realize is that today's traffic stop will permanently alter both their careers. Samuel Wilson navigates his unmarked sedan through the tree-lined streets of Oak Ridge, an affluent neighborhood on the city's north side. The tension in his shoulders begins to ease. After 3 weeks of undercover work infiltrating a drug trafficking operation, he's finally heading home. His casual attire-worn jeans and a navy button-up replaces his usual crisp suit, a necessary adjustment to blend in with his targets. 2 miles back, Officer James Brennan notices the dark sedan and runs the plates without thinking. His dashboard computer displays a BOLO alert. Black male, 30 to 40, driving dark sedan, wanted for questioning in connection with armed robbery. The actual description contains additional details: height, distinctive clothing, a specific car model, but Brennan's eyes lock onto the simplified pattern. Samuel spots the patrol car in his rearview mirror. He's been followed before. His driving becomes a textbook demonstration of perfection turn signals activated well in advance, complete stops at every sign, precisely at the speed limit. A familiar routine. Brennan trails the sedan for 4 blocks, searching for a reason to initiate contact. He doesn't wait for dispatch to respond to his plate query before activating his lights. His right hand instinctively rests on his holster as he calls in the stop. "Possible 1031 suspect, dark sedan, single occupant. Male," he reports, voice tight with anticipation. The dispatcher's voice crackles through his earpiece with registration details, but Brennan has already committed to his narrative. His body camera's red light blinks as he steps from his cruiser. Samuel places both hands on the steering wheel, visible through the window. His department ID sits in his wallet, badge in his jacket pocket. His heartbeat remains steady despite the familiar rush of adrenaline. He takes a deep breath. "Third time this month," he mutters to himself. "Same routine, different day." He mentally rehearses the procedure he knows by heart. Announce all movements before making them. Maintain respectful tone regardless of provocation. Remember every word exchanged. Document everything. As Brennan approaches with hand on holster, his body camera captures every calculated step toward a confrontation. Neither man will forget. Brennan positions himself strategically behind the driver's window, right hand still hovering near his weapon. He scans the vehicle's interior with practiced suspicion. "License and registration," he demands flatly, offering no greeting or explanation for the stop. Samuel keeps his hands visible on the steering wheel. "Officer, I'm going to reach for my wallet slowly." His voice carries the measured calm he uses when de-escalating volatile suspects. "Just hurry up," Brennan cuts him off, impatience sharpening his tone. Samuel moves with deliberate precision, retrieving his wallet with his right hand while his left remains in plain sight. "May I ask why I'm being pulled over today?" Brennan ignores the question, eyes narrowing as he studies Samuel's license. His expression flickers with confusion at the address, a high-end neighborhood that doesn't match his mental profile of the man before him. "You match the description of a suspect in a robbery that occurred earlier today," he finally responds, gaze shifting between Samuel and the license. Samuel recognizes the tactic-vague justification designed to provoke a reaction. "Officer, I'm actually—" "Step out of the vehicle," Brennan interrupts sharply. "May I ask why that's necessary?" Samuel maintains his professional tone despite the familiar knot forming in his stomach. "Step out now or I'll remove you." Brennan's hand tightens around his holster. Samuel weighs his options, knowing escalation serves no one. He complies, movements slow and telegraphed. "Officer, I'm a detective with Metro." The explanation dies as Brennan grabs Samuel's arm, twisting it behind his back with unnecessary force. "I said turn around! Hands on the car!" Samuel feels himself being shoved against his own vehicle, the cool metal pressing against his cheek. The sudden movement causes his jacket to shift, his badge case sliding from his pocket. "I'm telling you, I'm a police detective," Samuel tries again, keeping his voice level despite the growing pressure on his arm. Brennan sees something falling from Samuel's pocket, a quick movement that triggers his trained response. As Samuel's badge hits the pavement, Brennan's boot pins his wrist to the ground, mere inches from the proof that could end this charade. "On the ground! Now!" Brennan forces Samuel down, driving a knee into his back with practiced efficiency. Samuel's cheek presses against the scorching asphalt, the heat burning his skin. His badge lies just beyond his fingertips, glinting in the afternoon sun like a cruel taunt. "I'm Detective Samuel Wilson, Major Crimes Division," he states through gritted teeth, maintaining his professional demeanor despite the growing pressure on his spine. Brennan snorts dismissively. "Yeah, and I'm the police commissioner." The handcuffs close around Samuel's wrists with a metallic click, tightened a notch beyond necessary. Across the street, a woman stops, phone raised. Others join her, forming a semicircle of silent witnesses, their devices capturing each moment of Samuel's public degradation. A teenage boy whispers to his friend, eyes wide with uncomfortable fascination. With Samuel secured on the ground, Brennan turns his attention to the sedan, yanking open the door without consent. He begins rifling through the contents, tossing items onto the street with casual disregard, a leather portfolio containing case files, a gym bag, a framed family photo that lands face down on the curb. "Officer, you need a warrant or my consent to search my vehicle," Samuel says, his voice strained but controlled. The familiar weight of public humiliation settles over him, not just as a man wrongfully detained, but as a law enforcement officer treated like a common criminal before an audience of citizens he's sworn to protect. "Probable cause," Brennan responds with dismissive confidence, "looking for weapons or contraband related to the robbery." Among the onlookers, a woman with serious eyes records intently, methodically capturing different angles of the scene. Samuel notices her, the only witness seemingly concerned with documentation rather than spectacle. Their eyes meet briefly. He sees determination in her gaze. Brennan's search uncovers Samuel's police radio and secured department phone in the glove compartment. He holds them up like trophies. "What's this? Police scanner? You impersonating an officer too?" His tone carries a hint of uncertainty now, the first crack in his confident facade. "That's department-issued equipment," Samuel replies evenly. "My badge is on the ground right there. If you just look—" Brennan's boot connects with the badge case, sending it skittering beneath the car. "That toy badge? Probably bought it online with the fake radio." Pulling out his phone, Brennan photographs Samuel's ID, pretending to verify it through official channels. His movements have slowed, betraying the growing realization that he might have miscalculated. But rather than correct course, he doubles down. Samuel feels the rough pavement against his face, watches his professional dignity scattered across the street like the contents of his car. In this moment of forced prostration, a decision crystallizes within him. This won't be dismissed with an insincere apology. This won't disappear into administrative limbo like the other incidents. This ends today. As Brennan's radio demands a status update, Samuel notices the officer has muted his body camera, but the dash cam's unblinking eye still records everything. Brennan pulls Samuel to his feet, keeping the handcuffs secured. Samuel stands tall despite the restraints, his eyes cataloging details with professional precision. Officer J. Brennan, badge number 6472, Central Division. Every word, every action imprints in his memory with crystal clarity. A second patrol car arrives, lights flashing but silent. Sergeant Rivera steps out, her expression tightening as she surveys the scene. The scattered belongings, the recording bystanders, the handcuffed black man standing with uncommon dignity. "What's going on, Brennan?" she asks, approaching cautiously. "Robbery suspect. Resisting. Possible police impersonation." Brennan responds tersely, the clipped phrases revealing his growing uncertainty. Rivera studies Samuel more carefully, her experienced eyes catching what Brennan missed: the composed stance, the evaluating gaze. Recognition flickers across her face. "Sir, what's your name?" she asks directly. "Detective Samuel Wilson, Major Crimes Division, badge number 8541. His voice carries the unmistakable authority of command presence. Rivera's expression shifts immediately. "Brennan, uncuff him, now!" "But Sarge—" "Now, officer." Her tone leaves no room for debate. The handcuffs release with a metallic click. Samuel rotates his wrists slowly, the skin already showing signs of bruising where the metal bit too deep. "My badge is under the vehicle," he states matter-of-factly. Rivera kneels without hesitation, retrieving the badge herself. She examines it briefly before returning it with an apologetic nod. "Detective Wilson." Brennan stands frozen, the color draining from his face as realization dawns. Samuel straightens his clothes with deliberate movements, dignity reassembling with each gesture. He addresses Rivera directly, as though Brennan has ceased to exist. "I'd like the incident number for this stop, please." "Look, there was a misunderstanding," Brennan interjects, panic edging into his voice. Samuel turns to him with ice in his gaze. "Officer Brennan, this conversation is now between myself and your supervisor." Rivera provides the information while Brennan retreats to his cruiser, shoulders hunched in defensive posture. Samuel collects his scattered belongings, placing each item back in his car with methodical care, particularly the family photo now bearing a cracked frame. Once seated in his vehicle, doors closed against the outside world, Samuel allows himself 3 deep breaths. Then he reaches for his phone. The first call goes to Captain Reeves, his direct supervisor. Samuel provides a clinical account of the incident time, location, officer information, witnesses, potential evidence. The second call is to Leon Harris, his friend of 20 years and a prominent civil rights attorney. "Leon, it's Sam. I need your help." His voice remains steady, controlled. "No, I'm okay, but it's happening again. This time we have witnesses, recordings, and a dash cam." Through the rearview mirror, Samuel watches Brennan and Rivera engaged in tense conversation beside their patrol cars. His hands grip the steering wheel tightly, then deliberately relax, one finger at a time. "No, not like before," he continues, resolution hardening his voice. "This time we're going all the way." Across town, Captain Reeves ends Samuel's call and immediately dials the police commissioner's private line reserved only for extraordinary circumstances. The next morning, Samuel enters the precinct dressed immaculately in his detective's suit. Charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, badge and ID prominently displayed. Officers part before him in the hallway, word of yesterday's incident having spread through the department like wildfire. He proceeds directly to internal affairs, a manila folder tucked under his arm containing his official complaint. Inside, he details the encounter with surgical precision timestamps, exact quotations, specific actions, all recounted with professional detachment that makes the events more damning than any emotional plea could. Meanwhile, across the building, Officer Brennan sits rigidly in Lieutenant Morris's office, sweat beading at his temples despite the aggressive air conditioning. "Do you have any idea who you detained yesterday?" Morris asks, fingers steepled before him. Brennan shrugs with false nonchalance. "Some guy claiming to be a cop. I didn't believe him." Morris slides a personnel file across the desk. The photo of Samuel Wilson stares up at them, 15 years of distinguished service, multiple commendations, currently heading the Riverside Drug Trafficking Task Force. Brennan's eyes widen slightly, but his posture remains defensive. The description matched. I was doing my job. Your body cam was muted during the search. Morris's voice hardens. Care to explain? Technical issue. Must have hit it accidentally. The lie hangs awkwardly in the air. Internal Affairs received his complaint this morning. Morris leans forward. And the commissioner's office has personally requested the dash cam footage. Brennan's confident facade cracks visibly. It was a routine stop. Nothing about this is routine anymore, Morris says, his tone grave. Wilson isn't just any detective. He's part of the department's new accountability division, handpicked by the commissioner herself. The color drains from Brennan's face. In the commissioner's office, Samuel reviews the dash cam footage alongside Captain Reeves and Commissioner Daniels. The video plays with damning clarity. Samuel's repeated attempts to identify himself, Brennan's escalating aggression, the badge being kicked away. This isn't about me, Samuel says as the footage ends. This is about every person who doesn't have a badge to flash when they're wrongfully detained. Commissioner Daniels nods gravely. How do you want to proceed? Samuel's response comes without hesitation. By the book. No special treatment, no cover-ups. Just the policies as written applied equally. As Samuel exits the commissioner's office, his phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Footage from 3 bystanders uploaded online. It's going viral. The video explodes across social media platforms within hours. News outlets pick up the story with blazing headlines. Decorated black detective profiled, handcuffed by officer. Samuel's name and face appear on screens nationwide, his composed dignity contrasting sharply with Brennan's aggressive tactics. Samuel maintains media silence, returning to his regular caseload the following day. He declines special assignments or administrative leave, instead working methodically through the Riverside drug trafficking investigation as though nothing has changed. Only the respectful nods from colleagues and the occasional whispered conversation that stops when he enters a room betray the department's awareness. Across town, Officer Brennan sits in the police union office, tension radiating from his rigid posture as his representative delivers unwelcome advice. Just apologize, the union rep urges, frustration evident in his voice. Admit you made an error in judgment. Agree to sensitivity training. We can salvage this. Brennan shakes his head stubbornly. I followed procedure based on the information I had. If he'd identified himself properly from the start... The dash cam shows he tried, the rep interrupts, tapping the laptop screen where the footage plays on loop. Multiple times. Everyone's overreacting. Brennan paces the small office. If this was just some regular guy, nobody would care. The rep sighs heavily. But he wasn't just some regular guy. And that's the whole point they're making. Meanwhile, in a downtown law office, Samuel meets with Leon, his attorney friend. They review options spread across a conference table department procedures, civil actions, potential reforms. The internal investigation is proceeding correctly for once, Leon notes, adjusting his glasses. But there's a bigger opportunity here. Samuel looks up from the documents. I'm listening. This could be the catalyst for the policy changes you've been pushing for years. Leon's eyes gleam with strategic possibility. Mandatory body cam usage, independent review of stops, data tracking for racial patterns. Using my position as leverage, Samuel says thoughtfully. Using your unique perspective as both victim and officer, Leon corrects firmly. You bridge two worlds. That's power. In her university office, Dr. Maya Peterson, the woman who recorded the incident, uploads a detailed analysis to her academic website. As a sociology professor specializing in police-community relations, she breaks down the interaction with methodical precision. Her post concludes, "This isn't an isolated incident. This is systemic. And the only reason we're talking about it is because the victim had a badge of his own." As Samuel prepares for the disciplinary hearing, a folder arrives on his desk containing evidence that Officer Brennan has a history of similar stops all mysteriously lost in the system. Samuel carries the unmarked folder into Captain Reeves's office, placing it carefully on the desk between them. The captain opens it, eyes narrowing as he examines the contents. 6 complaints in 3 years, all from Black or Hispanic drivers, Reeves says, flipping through the documents. All dismissed for insufficient evidence or procedural issues. He looks up sharply. Where did you get this? Anonymous source in records, Samuel replies, standing with hands clasped behind his back. Someone who's been watching but afraid to speak up until now. Across town, Officer Brennan hunches at a corner table in the Blue Line, a bar frequented by law enforcement. He's surrounded by a small circle of supporters, officers who view him as a victim of political expediency. They're hanging you out to dry, Officer Mercer says, his 20 years on the force evident in the lines etched around his eyes. Making an example because the media got involved. Brennan nods, staring into his untouched beer. I was following training. Split-second decisions. You know how it is. Mercer claps his shoulder with heavy solidarity. We've got your back. The union's prepared to fight this all the way. Meanwhile, Dr. Peterson's analysis gains traction beyond academic circles, cited by news outlets and advocacy groups alike. Her university email fills with speaking requests. The most significant arrives from City Hall, an invitation to address the upcoming City Council meeting on police reform. Samuel receives an identical invitation the same afternoon. He stares at it, pen tapping rhythmically against his desk as Captain Reeves stops by his workstation. You going to accept? Reeves asks, nodding toward the invitation. Samuel's pen continues its steady rhythm. If I speak publicly, they'll say I'm just looking for attention or advancement. And if you don't? Reeves challenges gently. The tapping stops as Samuel meets his captain's gaze, understanding the implicit message. Silence serves no one. At police headquarters, Commissioner Daniels holds a press conference addressing the incident without naming names. Camera flashes punctuate her carefully measured statements announcing a departmental review of traffic stop procedures and bias training. We are committed to ensuring that all citizen interactions are conducted with professionalism and respect, she concludes. A reporter stands, cutting through the practiced rhetoric. Is this just damage control because the victim happened to be one of your own? The commissioner pauses, composure briefly slipping. It shouldn't take a badge for someone to be treated with dignity and due process. That's exactly the problem we're addressing. The night before the disciplinary hearing, Samuel's phone illuminates with a text from an unknown number. Brennan's dash cam footage from past 6 months shows a pattern. Check your email. The disciplinary hearing convenes in a sterile conference room, fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across tense faces. Officer Brennan sits ramrod straight, flanked by union representatives in identical dark suits. Across the polished table, Samuel maintains a composed presence beside Captain Reeves, his expression revealing nothing. The 3-member panel, a deputy commissioner, a civilian oversight representative, and a senior internal affairs investigator review preliminary findings. The room falls silent as the dash cam footage plays on a wall-mounted screen, documenting the encounter in unforgiving detail. When questioned, Brennan maintains his position. I acted on information provided in the bolo. The suspect description matched, and I followed department protocols for a high-risk stop. His voice carries well-rehearsed conviction, but his fingers betray him, tapping nervously against his thigh beneath the table. When Samuel's turn comes, he approaches the testimony with the same methodical precision he brings to homicide investigations. He recounts the events factually, without embellishment or apparent emotion. Then comes the moment that shifts the atmosphere in the room. Detective Wilson, the panel chair says, for the record, could you explain your current assignment within the department? Samuel straightens imperceptibly. For the past 8 months, I've been serving on the newly formed Justice and Accountability Task Force, a joint initiative between our department, the FBI, and the Department of Justice. Brennan shifts uncomfortably in his chair. The task force, Samuel continues, voice steady and clear, was created to investigate patterns of misconduct and civil rights violations within law enforcement agencies, including our own. The room falls silent, the implications settling like dust. My role includes experiencing our department's procedures firsthand, as both an officer and a citizen. I drive unmarked vehicles through different neighborhoods, observing how patrol officers conduct themselves when they believe no one is watching. Brennan's face drains of color, his union representative leaning forward with sudden intensity. I've been stopped 17 times in 8 months. Samuel's precise tone gives the number devastating impact. Only twice was I asked for my reason for being in the neighborhood before being ordered from my vehicle. Only once was I addressed as sir, rather than with immediate hostility. He places a folder on the table with deliberate care. This isn't about one incident or one officer. This is about a pattern that exists throughout our department. Officer Brennan's actions are a symptom of a larger problem. The folder opens beneath his steady hands. With the Commissioner's authorization, I've compiled data from Officer Brennan's past 6 months of traffic stops. The pages inside contain meticulously organized statistics, color-coded graphs, and time-stamped images. 83% were minorities, predominantly black males. The average stop duration for white drivers was 7 minutes. For black drivers, 24 minutes. Searches were conducted in 71% of stops involving minorities versus 15% for white drivers. Brennan stands abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. This is a setup. You're twisting numbers to fit your agenda. These aren't my numbers, Officer Brennan, Samuel responds, voice remaining measured despite the outburst. They're yours, from your own reports and dash cam footage. The panel members exchange significant glances. I'm not here seeking punishment for Officer Brennan, Samuel continues, surprising everyone in the room. I'm here because our training, our culture, and our systems failed him as much as they failed me. And they're failing our community every day. He closes the folder with finality. This case isn't unique. It's just uniquely visible because of my position. I represent thousands of citizens who experience these interactions without the protection of a badge, whose complaints vanish into administrative black holes, whose dignity is compromised without consequence, whose trust in law enforcement erodes with each unnecessary escalation. Samuel's gaze sweeps the room, landing finally on Brennan. The question isn't whether one officer acted inappropriately in one instance. The question is why our system makes such actions routine, expected, even rewarded, until they happen to one of our own. The civilian oversight representative leans forward. What would you recommend, Detective? Structural reform, Samuel replies without hesitation. Not scapegoating individuals, but transforming the metrics we use to evaluate policing success. Not just punitive measures, but proactive redesign of how we engage with our communities. As murmurs fill the room, Samuel notices Dr. Peterson sitting quietly in the back row, her keen eyes missing nothing. Their gazes meet briefly, professional recognition between two people committed to documentation and analysis rather than spectacle. As the room erupts in commotion, Dr. Peterson discreetly passes Samuel a folded note. The City Council wants us both at tomorrow's emergency session on police reform. The disciplinary panel's decision comes swiftly. Officer Brennan suspended without pay, pending a comprehensive investigation of his conduct history. The police union issues an immediate statement defending Brennan, while simultaneously distancing themselves from any potential impropriety, a contradiction that betrays their weakening position as more evidence emerges. Samuel exits the hearing room, avoiding the cluster of reporters stationed in the lobby. He finds Dr. Peterson waiting in a quiet alcove away from prying eyes and cameras. Detective Wilson, she extends her hand. Dr. Maya Peterson, Sociology Department at City University. I specialize in police community relations. You were recording at the scene, Samuel notes, recognition flickering in his eyes. One of several, she confirms, but perhaps the only one with 15 years of research data to contextualize what happened. They find a quiet conference room where Dr. Peterson spreads charts and graphs across the table. Her analysis presents Samuel's 17 traffic stops against broader patterns throughout the city. Your experience isn't unique, she explains, indicating color-coded districts where stop disparities range from troubling to egregious. But your position makes it impossible to ignore. You've created a perfect case study, same person, same car, different outcomes based solely on perception of authority. Samuel studies the data with a detective's trained eye. The system protects itself until it can't. Exactly. She taps a particularly damning chart. Which is why tomorrow's city council session matters. This isn't just about one officer or one incident. It's about using this moment to push for structural change. The city council chambers overflow the following day, cameras broadcasting the proceedings live across multiple platforms. Samuel testifies not as a victim seeking redress, but as an expert proposing solutions. We need mandatory body cams with automatic activation during stops, he states, voice carrying easily through the packed room. We need data tracking to identify patterns of bias. We need community oversight boards with real power. And most importantly, we need to change how we measure police success, from number of stops and arrests to community trust and constitutional compliance. Commissioner Daniels follows his testimony, publicly supporting these measures. Her endorsement represents a significant political calculation, recognizing both the shifting public sentiment and the opportunity to position the department as reform-minded rather than resistant. Our officers deserve clear guidelines and metrics that align with our true mission serving and protecting all citizens equally, she concludes, careful to balance reform language with support for the rank and file. Behind closed doors, resistance emerges from predictable quarters. Senior officers nearing retirement resist changes to systems that defined their careers. Union representatives interpret reforms as implied criticism of their members. Middle managers worry about implementing new metrics and technologies with limited budgets. Officer Brennan, suspended but still defended by union attorneys, makes calculated appearances on sympathetic media outlets. I was doing my job the way I was trained, he tells a host known for pro-police commentary. Now they're changing the rules and blaming me for following the old ones. Samuel refuses to engage in this personalization of the issue. When reporters ambush him outside his apartment seeking response to Brennan's claims, he remains focused on systemic concerns. This isn't about one officer's actions, he states calmly into the forest of microphones. It's about a culture that encourages those actions and a system that protects them. In his downtown office, Leon drafts policy language for the proposed reforms, translating conceptual goals into actionable regulations. City council members, sensing the public mood and the political advantages of championing change, compete to attach their names to various provisions. The mayor, initially cautious about antagonizing the police union in an election year, pivots toward reform after polling data reveals overwhelming public support. She announces a special commission co-chaired by Samuel and Dr. Peterson to oversee implementation of the new policies. This commission will ensure that changes aren't just on paper, but in practice, she declares at a press conference, positioning herself as a bridge builder between community concerns and law enforcement needs. Behind closed doors, the police union negotiates frantically, trying to minimize substantive changes while saving face. They propose cosmetic reforms, additional bias training sessions, voluntary body cam programs, non-binding community feedback mechanisms. Samuel stands firm during these discussions. Half measures won't work. We need real change, not window dressing. His position gains surprising support from Commissioner Daniels, who recognizes that token reforms would only delay the inevitable while damaging the department's credibility. Her alliance with Samuel creates fractures in the department's old power structure. with younger officers and those from diverse backgrounds increasingly vocal in supporting meaningful change. Several officers privately approached Samuel, sharing their own concerns about practices they've witnessed but felt powerless to address. These quiet conversations happen in parking garages, at coffee shops away from police hangouts, through encrypted messages, revealing the depth of dissatisfaction within the ranks themselves. "I joined to help people," a young patrol officer confides during one such meeting. "But the way we're trained, the way we're evaluated, it's all about numbers, citations, stops, arrests, nothing about whether we're actually making the community better or safer." Dr. Peterson organizes community feedback sessions throughout the city, ensuring reforms reflect actual community needs rather than administrative convenience. These meetings reveal consistent themes across diverse neighborhoods: desires for respectful interaction, transparent processes, and accountability when violations occur. "The community isn't anti-police," she reports to the commission. "They're anti-abuse. They want officers who know their neighborhoods, understand their cultures, and treat them with basic dignity." The media narrative evolves from a single inflammatory incident to a movement for structural change. Samuel's dual-perspective respected officer and profiled civilian makes him uniquely persuasive. He can speak the language of law enforcement while authentically representing the experience of those subjected to its abuses. National attention follows. Other departments request briefings on the proposed reforms. Civil rights organizations offer resources and expertise. Law enforcement journals publish analyses of the emerging metro model of constitutional policing. Throughout this whirlwind of activity, Samuel maintains his regular caseload, solving a double homicide in the Riverside case and coordinating with federal authorities to dismantle the drug trafficking operation he had infiltrated. This visible commitment to his primary duties undermines critics who attempt to dismiss him as a publicity-seeking malcontent. The City Council unanimously passes the reform package after 6 weeks of intense negotiation. The comprehensive policy includes mandatory body cameras with automatic activation during all stops, searches, and arrests, quarterly analysis of stop data to identify patterns of potential bias, independent civilian review board with investigative authority, revised evaluation metrics, prioritizing constitutional compliance and community feedback, enhanced training on de-escalation and implicit bias, transparency requirements for complaint investigations, early intervention systems to identify and address problematic officer behavior. Implementation begins immediately, with Samuel and Dr. Peterson's commission overseeing the rollout. Initial resistance gives way to cautious adaptation as officers navigate the new expectations and technologies. "Change this fundamental doesn't happen overnight," Samuel acknowledges during a department-wide briefing. "But it does happen if we commit to the process rather than just the paperwork." As the final vote on reforms approaches, Samuel receives an anonymous text message. "Back off, or everyone learns about Santiago," a case from his past that could undermine everything he's built. Officer Brennan's full disciplinary hearing convenes 3 months after the initial incident. The intervening weeks have transformed both the department and public perception. What began as a single controversial traffic stop has catalyzed a citywide reckoning with policing practices. Brennan enters the hearing room with diminished presence, his once confident stride now hesitant. The row of union representatives flanking him appears more obligatory than supportive, their expressions revealing the shifting political calculus within the department. The evidence against him unfolds methodically, not just Samuel's incident, but a pattern established over years. The panel presents a comprehensive analysis: targeted stops based on minimal justification, disproportionate force applied to minority subjects, procedural violations ranging from minor to significant. Most damning is the technology evidence body camera footage accidentally muted during contentious moments, dash cam angles conveniently obscured, reports that minimize or mischaracterize civilian behavior to justify escalation. As the evidence mounts, Brennan's defense strategy shifts visibly from denial to deflection. "I followed department culture," he claims, voice tinged with desperation. "I did what my field training officers taught me. I did what my sergeants expected. Everyone does the same things. I'm just the one who got caught." The panel chair leans forward. "Are you saying misconduct is acceptable if it's common?" Brennan's posture collapses slightly. "I'm saying I was trained this way. By FTOs who told me this is how real policing works. By supervisors who praised my proactive approach and high stop numbers." From his seat at the witness table, Samuel observes silently. There's undeniable truth in Brennan's words. He is partly a product of a flawed system that incentivized precisely the behaviors now being condemned. The panel deliberates while Brennan waits in a small anteroom, his union representative preparing him for potential outcomes. "They're making an example of you," the rep says frankly. "Best case scenario, suspension without pay, sensitivity training, and probation. Worst case, termination." Brennan's carefully maintained anger finally fractures, revealing the fear beneath. "This job is all I have. I've got child support, a mortgage." His voice trails off. When called back in, Brennan stands stiffly as the panel delivers their decision. Termination, effective immediately. The formal language, repeated violations of department policy, failure to activate required recording equipment, and actions unbecoming an officer, feels almost anticlimactic after months of escalating consequences. Brennan surrenders his badge and service weapon without comment, the ceremonial stripping of his professional identity performed under fluorescent lights rather than with the dignity of a retirement ceremony. As he exits the hearing room, he passes Samuel in the hallway. Their eyes meet briefly, the corridor suddenly empty despite its crowded benches. "You've ruined my career," Brennan says, voice low and bitter. Samuel holds his gaze steadily. "You had 17 opportunities to ruin mine before I even had a badge. Think about that." Later that evening, Samuel receives a call from Captain Reeves regarding the threatening text about Santiago. The investigation traced it to a former partner of Brennan's, a desperate attempt to derail the reforms by hinting at professional misconduct. The irony emerges as Reeves explains. The Santiago case, rather than being Samuel's secret shame, stands as one of his finest professional moments. 5 years earlier, Samuel had testified against his own partner when he witnessed the officer planting evidence on a suspect. He had broken the unwritten code, the blue wall of silence, choosing justice over loyalty to a corrupt colleague. "They thought Santiago would discredit you," Reeves says. "Instead, it proves exactly why you're the right person to lead these reforms." Samuel places his phone down, staring at the wall of commendations in his apartment, recognition of cases solved, lives saved, justice served. Among them hangs a simple framed note from the Santiago family, thanking him for having the courage to speak truth when every institutional pressure pushed toward silence. The next morning's news carries Brennan's termination as a footnote, rather than a headline evidence that the story has evolved beyond individual punishment to systematic transformation. As news of Brennan's termination spreads through the department, Samuel receives an unexpected message. Brennan wants to meet privately, away from lawyers and reporters. 6 months after the incident, the reforms take visible root throughout the department. Body cameras activate automatically when officers exit their vehicles, the small lights blinking steadily during every civilian interaction. Weekly traffic stop data appears on public dashboards, analyzed for patterns that might indicate bias or problematic officer behavior. The newly established Civilian Oversight Board meets in a renovated conference room at City Hall, its diverse members reviewing body camera footage, interviewing officers and complainants, and issuing binding recommendations. Their authority, initially contested by the union, now operates with grudging acceptance from even veteran officers. Samuel leads training sessions twice weekly, incorporating his experiences from both sides of the badge. New recruits and seasoned officers alike sit in rows as he presents real-world scenarios, teaching not just tactical approaches, but constitutional awareness and recognition of implicit bias. The goal isn't to make you hesitate in dangerous situations, he tells them. It's to help you accurately identify which situations are truly dangerous versus those where your training or assumptions might be misleading you. The department's success metrics have undergone fundamental revision. Computer screens that once displayed arrest totals and citation counts now track constitutional compliance rates and community satisfaction scores. Promotions increasingly consider these new metrics rather than traditional enforcement statistics. Dr. Peterson's research documents the early impact. 6 months of data shows complaints down 30%, use of force incidents reduced by 25%, while serious crime clearance rates remain stable. Her academic papers on the Metro model gain national attention, cited by police departments and civil rights organizations alike. Delegations from other cities arrive weekly to observe the transformed systems. Samuel finds himself speaking at police academies across the country, sharing not just the mechanics of the reforms, but the philosophy behind them. The goal isn't to make policing weaker, he explains to a class of cadets in a neighboring state. It's to make it more just, more constitutional, and ultimately more effective. Constitutional policing isn't just morally right. It's practically superior because it builds the community trust that makes solving crimes possible. Not everyone embraces the changes. A cadre of older officers opts for early retirement rather than adapt to new expectations. Some veteran supervisors claim the new approach is soft on crime or creates unnecessary paperwork. But younger officers, especially those from diverse backgrounds, thrive under standards that align with their original motivations for joining the force. Dr. Peterson transitions from external observer to permanent advisor on community relations, her academic rigor complementing Samuel's practical experience. Together, they develop training modules that transform abstract concepts like procedural justice into concrete daily practices. Samuel's promotion to lead the Permanent Accountability Division comes without ceremony, a simple email from the commissioner confirming his appointment. The role ensures the reforms will outlast any single administration or political moment. In a quiet moment between meetings, Samuel and Captain Reeves share coffee in the break room. The badge didn't protect me that day, Samuel reflects, turning his credential case in his hands. But it gave me the platform to protect others who don't have one. Reeves nods thoughtfully. The system changes slowly, but it does change when pushed from within. As Samuel leaves the precinct that evening, he spots a familiar face across the street. Officer Brennan, now in private security uniform, watching him from the shadows. The evening air carries the first hint of autumn as Samuel crosses the street toward the figure standing in the shadow of a downtown office building. Brennan looks different, the assertive posture of his police days replaced by something more subdued. His security uniform fits poorly, as though designed for someone else entirely. "Detective," Brennan acknowledges stiffly as Samuel approaches. "It's just Samuel today," he replies, maintaining a comfortable distance between them. "Off duty." An awkward silence stretches between them, filled with the ambient sounds of the city passing cars, distant conversations, the electronic hum of streetlights flickering to life. "I saw you on the news," Brennan finally says, gaze fixed somewhere beyond Samuel's shoulder. "Talking about the reforms." Samuel waits, letting the moment breathe. The confrontation he once anticipated no longer seems necessary. "You could have made it personal," Brennan continues, the words coming with evident difficulty. "Made it all about me. But you didn't." Samuel shrugs slightly. "It was never about you. You were just doing what the system rewarded." Brennan's eyes finally meet his. "That doesn't excuse it." "No," Samuel agrees simply. "It doesn't." The silence returns, less tense than before. A taxi honks in the distance. Two pedestrians pass, oblivious to the significance of the exchange they're witnessing. "I'm in a program," Brennan says eventually, shifting his weight, "for former officers. Counseling, bias training, conflict resolution. It's," he searches for the right word, "opening my eyes." Samuel nods. "Good." "I can't get my badge back," Brennan continues, his tone a complex mixture of resignation and emerging purpose. "But I'm working with at-risk youth now, trying to build bridges instead of walls." He hesitates, then adds, "I owe you an apology." "You owe an apology to every person you stopped without cause," Samuel corrects gently but firmly. "I'm just the one who had the power to make it matter." Brennan absorbs this, nodding slowly. "Fair enough." They part without ceremony, not as friends, but as two men acknowledging a shared humanity that had once been obscured by badges and biases. Samuel watches Brennan return to his post, then continues his walk home, the weight on his shoulders somehow lighter. The following week, Samuel and Dr. Peterson speak at a community forum hosted in a church basement. The audience represents the city's diverse neighborhoods, faces attentive as they discuss the ongoing implementation of reforms. During the question period, a young black man stands. "What's the point of reforms if the problem is the system itself? Aren't we just putting a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling foundation?" Samuel considers this thoughtfully. Systems are made of people. Change the people, their training, their incentives, their accountability, and you change the system. Dr. Peterson adds, "And when you can't change people from within, you create external pressures that force adaptation. That's why community involvement in these reforms isn't optional, it's essential." As attendees mingle afterward over coffee and cookies, Samuel notices a patrol officer through the window, handling a situation on the street outside. The officer speaks with a group of teenagers, posture relaxed, body camera blinking, interaction conducted with evident respect on both sides. "That's why we do this," he tells Dr. Peterson, nodding toward the scene. "For that kid who won't be humiliated today because an officer learned a better way." Samuel returns to his apartment, passing the framed commendations on his wall, now joined by news clippings documenting the reforms. He runs his finger along the edge of his badge, feeling the weight of both its authority and its responsibility. Tomorrow brings another training session, another committee meeting, another opportunity to translate painful experience into meaningful change. The work continues. If this story resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Be part of our growing community by hitting that subscribe button right now. Each subscription helps us amplify these crucial voices and stories. Give this video a thumbs up to signal to the algorithm that content like this matters. Your like isn't just a click, it's a vote for the stories that need to be told. Turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly uploads. Next week, we explore another powerful story of justice that will leave you speechless.